defense looked pretty tough there.
That's what Lacey defense is all about. Gang tackling people, left people up off the ground, or Lacey guys being on the bottom of the pile, making the hits, swarming defense. That's Ed Heffernan's calling card, and I think also this year we have a very aggressive secondary that's coached by Tom Mallett.
I think you have to understand that one of the things that we said early on is we didn't think that Central could run well enough to win the game. They've got to throw.
3rd and 12. Pozo fakes to the back. It's time long, and Waller Dudley, the intended receiver, and Pluta had it well covered for Lacey Township.
Exactly, and once again, you see on that defensive play, number 40, Chris Bergstrom, fighting to get outside to force Pozo to come up and throw the football so he can't challenge him on the corner where they're not sure whether it's going to be a run or a pass.
All right, Tommy Loudon, the punt for the Golden Eagles. Good snap. Fielded on the 40-yard line by Lacey. And a return across the 50. Nice run by Lacey Township, and that's Greg Brandis on the return.
Once again, maybe Lacey's a tackle away from breaking along when on the special teams, too. And we thought that last week the special teams were the difference in winning the game, the punting and the kicking off of Jason Dunn. And, of course, this week it's been a big plus also.
There you see Ed Heffernan and with Chris Bergstrom in the background.
Ed Heffernan is the heart of this Lacey defense. He's a man that you can talk to any Lacey alumni, and they have very strong feelings about him.
1st and 10, it's 48 of Central Regional. Gary Sasawa, Mahoney blocking. Oh, nice run by Sasawa. Looked like 56 Tony McCurry was going to get him behind the line of scrimmage, and he got free.
What you have to understand is that's a play that goes from a 2-yard loss to a 2-yard gain. That's a 4-yard differential, and now you can still work your running game.
Plus, it's a mental pickup. When a team sees your back fighting that hard for yardage, they're going to work that much harder to get some blocks.
Tailback you here at Lacey. Of course, Keith Elias kind of started that tradition. He had Cameron, who was a good tailback. Brian Elias, Keith's brother last year. Now Sasawa. I'm going to ask Keith after this play to comment on the running style of Gary Sasawa compared to Keith's running style. 2nd down play. Sasawa gets the ball. Sasawa running hard. He may have a first down, very close, maybe a little bit short. Keith, you want to comment on his style?
Oh, definitely. I think I worked with Gary over the summer, and one of the things I think that he has improved on tremendously is his body lead. I think last year, and when I saw him run, he had a tendency to run a little high and sort of pick and choose his hole. And sometimes I think that you just have to go with the ball, and I think he's done that a lot more, especially on that play. It was good that we started this conversation right after that play, because that was a play where he saw his crack, and he got right up into his crack. He tried to make subtle moves, real quick moves, and don't waste a lot of time making moves. Keep your body lean flowing, your knees high, and just run hard.
Here's the measurement. Just short, less than a yard.
Now you got 2 downs to get this. What do? You go up top to get a punch one in quick, or do you go for the first down, Keith?
Well, it's 3rd down now, right?
Right, so you got 2 downs. You figure they're in 4-down territory. You've only got about 3 inches. Do you throw the ball to try to go deep and get a quick score?
I think when we're running the ball effectively, I think here's a down where you know you might get the first down, but I think you run right at him. Maybe give it, maybe use the ball.
3rd down, Mahoney the up back in the eye. 3rd and less than a yard. Mahoney gets the call. Keith called it.
I've been around Lacey too long.
And again, once you see him get it, and he might have lost some yardage there too, because Central expected him to get it. That's why I was saying that in that situation, you take a chance and try to go up top to get a quick score, because Central's coming with a goal line defense. They had 7 men on the line of scrimmage, and their linebackers were real close. Maybe do you go up top and try to get a quick score?
Well, they didn't get the first down. It's 4th and less than a yard. They're going to punt.
That was key.
Or are they? You're going to fake it. Let's see. I think they're going to punt.
That could definitely get
Central late getting the man
life.
off. That may cost them timeout. They do call a timeout. Central takes timeout. 6:01 left to play 3rd quarter. 7-0 Lacey.
That might have been an intelligent timeout, because one of the defensive linemen was running off the field because they'd made the exchange, And if they'd snapped the ball, they'd have gotten a 5-yard penalty and given Lacey a first down. So that might have been a very intelligent call by the defense of Central.
Keith Elias, what was your most memorable game in your high school career? You won 2 state championships. You won a lot of football games.
I think my junior year, of course, our first state title, is a game that definitely ranks high among my memories, especially in the manner in which we won.
The Woodrow Wilson game?
Exactly. The last-minute pass, the field goal.
You threw your only pass of your career in that game, right?
Well, I threw another pass the year after at Townships North and got crushed.
That was unbelievable. Keith threw the halfback pass that set up the field goal by Tarracone that won that state championship. That was the greatest game I ever did on cable.
Final on that was 31-28.
Yes.
One of the greatest games in Ocean County history.
I think also my senior year against Central was such an exciting, emotional game because the year before they did beat us, and we felt that we were a better team that year. Like I got hurt at halftime. So I think going in, that was definitely an emotional game, and it was a game I felt that we came together as a team before we went into the state.
Central wants some fan support. They're yelling for their fans here to get behind them on this 4th down play.
Lacey's going for it.
Less than a yard. They're going to go in the I formation. Mahoney, the tailback. Mahoney gets it. Mahoney's got a first down.
You got to stick with your guns.
Once again, Keith called it very well. He said that Casey Mahoney's a tough runner, and that time they flip-flopped Sasala, the fullback, and put Casey Mahoney at the tailback position because he's such a load. He's over 200 pounds. He's quick, so they give him the ball up inside, and he gets the first down.
The highest compliment I could pay Casey is that for the first time in about 12 years, look at that run, power. For the first time in about 12 years, there hasn't been an Elias on the Lacey team because my older brother played for Lacey. And next year, my little brother will be in the high school, but I told Casey before the year starts, this year he's Lacey's honorary Elias.
First down for Lacey Township at the 36-yard line. Gary Sattel cuts it outside, but Central does a nice job. They shut it down very quickly. Steers got in there, number 44, Tony.
Mike Steers, and once again, one of the observations that Keith made at halftime was that Central's defense has been bending, but then when it gets inside the 30s, they've been tightening up and been able to shut down the run, and that's what they've shown all day. The resiliency to bounce back. They've given up some plays, given up some first downs, but they have been able to shut down Lacey when it's been important, when they're in the end zone or in the red area.
2nd and 9 on the play. It was a 1-yard gain. Sala goes in motion. Pitch to Mahoney. Mahoney's got a hole, and Mahoney carries over the 30 to about the 29-yard line. And he's going to be about 4 yards short of a first down, about a 6-yard gain.
I think what you're seeing here is Lacey doing what they do best. They're running the football, but they're running it out of multiple formations, trying to keep Central off balance, not letting them know where they're going to run the ball, bringing it inside and outside and using both of their backs.
Right, they do use numerous backs, and you can't key on one of them. And I think what I mentioned in the first half, Keith, was what a great job Rich Stratton does with the offensive line, because even when Casey Mahoney went out, they were still able to gain yardage on the ground.
Ball's on the 31. Mahoney takes the toss, cuts it inside, and a flag after the play. Making the stop for Central is Peter Versa, number 75. Paula Panides also in on the stop. Let's see what the flag's all about.
And you know what bothers me about that is you could probably call holding on every play, and especially on a play like that. You know, officials sometimes throw flags. I sometimes think you should let the kids play the game.
That penalty can hurt because on an offense, when you're counting on running the ball 4 yards, 5 yards, being on track every down, that'll set you back about 10 yards and it forces you either to put the ball in the air or do something that's out of your scheme.
Holding penalty, and they march it off against Lacey, 3rd and 9.
But again, that went from the mark, from the spot of the foul, so they're not really in deep trouble. It's still 3rd and 9, but could be a whole lot worse if it was on the line of scrimmage.
Sasal is the wingback on the left side. Scoop wide open at the 15-yard line. That's the first down for Lacey Township.
On that play, what they did is they had 4 wide receivers set, and they had a 3 deep in the secondary, and they just ran Stoop down in a seam. To watch Stoop just open up in a seam, and the middle safety has to read which side, and basically what Coach Emmert, the offensive coordinator, does to his quarterback is he says, look at the safety. Whichever side he breaks to, you throw to the other guy on the seam, and that's exactly what happened. He read the middle safety, Pozo going to his right, so he threw back to Pozo's left and found Stoop for a big gain.
First down from the 15 for Lacey Township. They lead 7-0. Gary Sasawa down near the 10-yard line, stopped at around 11. Marla Panides again, and linebacker Tony McCurry.
And Tony McCurry's been a force in 2 games for Central. He's an outstanding linebacker. We can see why he's on the All-Channel 8 team.
Keith Lubersillo, when we talk to him, is very quiet, soft-spoken. Does he get into a real loud, emotional talk ever in the locker room?
There are times when he does let the emotions fly, but I think you talked about Coach Rich Stratton before. I think Coach Stratton and Coach Heff are definitely inspirational leaders and motivational leaders on the team.
Here's the second down play. They toss it to Sally, bobbled it, but he picks it up, and he may go in. It looks like it may be in. Touchdown, yes.
That was great concentration on the part of Gary Sasawa. Because when he got the ball and he was bobbling it, it didn't afford him to look up at the hole because he was concentrating on catching the ball. And if he would have lost his poise there, he might have fumbled it, but he kept it in and he brought it in for the score.
Is that an injury or just an injury? Yeah, we think we do have a Lacey injury.
There was absolutely tremendous blocking on that play because not only did Gary fumble the ball, but when he got the ball back in his clutches, the hole was tremendous. And I think that's a credit to the offensive line.
We haven't picked up his number yet. Looks like number 54, the center, or the guard, Jerry Korash. You're right, Steve. So Lacey now leads 13-0, 2:27 left in the third quarter.
Jerry Korash is an important part of their offensive line. He made our All-Channel 8 team, and they're very high on him. Both on the offensive line, they think next year at linebacker he'll be also equally as good.
Here's Jason Dunn. And last week's player of the game, Jason Dunn, adds the extra point. 14-0 Lacey.
In a drive that was dominated by the run, I think the key play was the pass.
You can see it right here, the toss, and watch him fumble it, keep his concentration and get into the end zone.
Excellent run.
Keith was mentioning he thinks the toughness of Lacey is one of their important factors, and we know that that's important. Once again, we've got 2:27 left in the third quarter, and Lacey is going with the win. In the fourth quarter, Central is going to be able to open it up a little bit with Pozo because they'll have the wind at their back. And the only trouble is now they're down 2 scores. And as Keith said, you know, when you're only up 7-0, a fluke, and now you're losing the football game. But in this situation, Central has to score twice at least to get back in the game.
We have Tony Summerini and Keith Elias doing co-color commentary here. Keith, I would think, you look at your record, that Lafayette game you played your junior year was your greatest game because you ran for 299 yards instead of record of Princeton for 1 game rushing. But which game did you feel was your best game for the Princeton Tigers?
Well, I think sometimes you have to look at games in 2 ways. One is like, how well did I run? And then the second one is how successful was I? And my junior year, I had a bunch of games where I was much more successful in terms of yardage, but I think that's because defenses were playing me differently. And I think this year, without the threat of the pass, there was a lot more pressure on myself to perform. But I think looking at my overall performance, I would say I ran my best games, maybe Harvard this year, and Dartmouth last year, and Dartmouth this year, in terms of how well I felt that I ran the ball.
Well,
especially Dartmouth last year.
You may need a holder here like we did last week.
I think the wind's picked up a little bit, and again, that's to the detriment of Central being down 14-0. One thing that we mentioned last week is we thought that one of the people that had to step up for Lacey to continue to move the ball offensively was Mike Granado, the sophomore quarterback, and I think that we can see that today. He's thrown the ball more often and much more accurately and with more confidence, and it's helped Lacey's offense.
Here's a kickoff with Simonson, the holder. And not much of a return by Central. Lacey gets down very quickly. By the way, Tony, we found out T.J. Hutler, I never knew this, and I grew up with his dad. T. J. Hutler has a twin sister who is co-captain or captain of the cheerleaders.
Right,
here today.
Becky Hutler, and we didn't know that, and Mrs. Hutler, who coaches the cheerleaders, mentioned that to us at halftime, and that's, we had no clue that Becky was his twin sister.
I think this is
all boys in your family, or any?
yeah, all boys.
All boys. No cheerleaders. I guess Nancy was a pretty good cheerleader, though, his mother. Pass over the middle, and it was intended for Ed Maturo, and Chris Bergstrom and Lamanowitz were right there on defense.
One of the things you see on that play is number 40, Chris Bergstrom, who's played such an important role in putting pressure on Jason Pozo, was dropping off. It gives you an idea of the complexity of the defenses used by Coach Heffernan of Lacey.
I think this is a very key series for both squads right now because Central has to get something going.
Second down from the 24-yard line. Pozo throwing. Parks. Andy Parks. First down Central at the 43-yard line. Tackle made by Pluta.
And again, as we said, that the short passes, the intermediate passes, the way Jason Pozo throws the ball, it won't be affected. On that play, number 88, Zellman made a good block.
First down from the 41. Again, Pozo goes to the air. And Lamanowitz intercepted. Doug Lamanowitz at the Lacey 48-yard line.
That was an incredible play by Doug Lamanowitz. First of all, what was key to that play was the fact that the last couple of times the Central quarterback dropped back, he had a lot of time. On that play, he had two defenders in his face. He threw it under pressure, and Doug just tipped the ball. A lot of concentration and made a heck of a play.
Good defensive play. But again, what you saw on that play is they brought pressure up inside with number 80, Steve Stoops, coming on a stunt up inside, and pressure from the outside by number 88, T.J. Hutler.
Lacey leading 14-0 late in the third quarter. They take over. Twin wideouts to the near side, I formation. Sasala going wide. Sasala turns the corner, and he picks up 4 yards.
One of the things that they give you is a lot of latitude at Lacey to run the ball where you see the hole. I guess that's what your coach Priscillo tells you, running back.
Exactly. I mean, you hit it right on the head. Some of the plays that are designed where there's a wide berth of where you can take the ball, front side or back side. And that time, Gary, you didn't see much front side. Used a little bit of speed and got around the corner.
They give him 5 yards on the carry. Second down and 5 for Lacey Township. Sasala again gets the call. Sasala first down for Lacey.
I think Gary found something he liked.
And they found the left side of the line, and he can get some yards, and he's been running. It's been a very important part of their offense today, the focus of their offense. And even in the second quarter, when Mahoney went out and he had to switch to fullback, he did a good job of lead blocking. I don't think you can say enough for the way Gary Sasala is playing today.
You know, a lot of times when you run the ball hard up the middle like Lacey does, or run those leads to one side, the defensive backfield gets very conscious of filling into the holes and filling in the gaps, and then sometimes they leave the outside a little open.
If you're that successful coming up inside, what happens is those outside linebackers want to get in on the action. And with a quick back like you or like Gary Sasala, once that back or that linebacker makes a commitment inside, you can get around them.
End of the third quarter with a score. The Lacey Township line 14 and the Golden Eagles of Central Regional nothing. I'm Ken Turp. With me in the booth, Tony Sermarini, and former Lacey Township All-Stater and current Princeton Tiger Player of the Year in the Ivy League, Keith Elias. We'll be back with a final quarter of today's short conference Class B South Championship game in just a moment. First play of the last quarter, Gary Sasala, and he's going to take a loss of about 3. Back to the 45-yard line.
Keith, on that play, the problem is the play was up inside. There wasn't much there, but sometimes what you have to take is just nothing. Because that time he tried to bounce it outside and lost 3 yards. You want to comment on that?
I think the fact is there's two different types of play. The play that Gary was bouncing before with leads where you go up the middle. When you have people pulling, you basically have to stay with the play. And if you can't bounce a counter outside because they block them outside.
2nd down and 13 for Lacey. Sal right up the middle, and he's hit and thrown for a loss. Tony McCurry, linebacker, 56 in there. Charlie Paulapanides, defensive end, 89.
Okay, now you're in a situation where you got 3rd and about 14. You're up 14-0. There are 11 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Keith, what do you do?
My philosophy is you always have to play to win. You know, at this point, you don't sit on the lead and try to run the clock out. There's too much of it left. So I don't think I would run the ball here. I think you definitely have to go with your quarterback. You don't ask him to do that much, but I think here's a play where you got to put it in the ball in the air and try to get the first down because you have to play to win.
Okay, I think that when you're up 14-0, your defense has been playing this well, that maybe you don't want to be too dangerous and give them a chance to get back in the game.
Well,
that defense has been great.
3rd down and 14. Renato on the roll. Renato steps up and throws. Incomplete. Steve Stoop was the intended receiver. He had a defender hit him from behind. He was looking for an interference call, didn't get it.
I think they were all both going for the ball, and that's pretty decent no call right there. Once again, Keith, you called it right. I would have pretty much sat on the ball and get that clock running. I guess that's being an old defensive coach.
You have to have confidence in your players. From a quarterback's mental standpoint, if the ball comes in and just run the ball up the middle, he's going to think that the coach has no confidence in his ability.
Jason Dunn with a punt and takes a nice Lacey roll of at least 10 yards, and Lacey waits till it rolls dead. They cover it. So Dunn, who was instrumental in last week's victory, again with a nice punt.
Plus, I think if a defense is playing well, it's more apt to make me less conservative, because if they throw a pick or something happens there, they haven't really moved the ball on you.
Well, Central's got to get something going. They got to get to work in a hurry here. Last quarter, 10 minutes to go in the ball game. 14-0 in favor of the Lacey Township Lions. High formation. Mozo to throw. He does to Andy Parks, the fullback. And he got maybe a yard.
Once again, you have to mention, and we haven't done a great deal because it's tough to see the people in the middle of the line, but you got to mention people like Greg Housworth, Matt Cutano, Rob Frazee, because they've been in there the whole game, and Central hasn't been able to run the ball. So I think that they have been an outstanding part of this defense for 7 quarters now.
2nd and 9. McCall keeps his footing. McCall, nice run, and he runs hard all the way up across the 35-yard line. First down.
What's been happening is for 2 quarters now, Central has been pass first, run second. The Lacey defense is now starting to loosen up a little bit, and now the run is successful. And that was the best running play of the game. You can see it right here. Watch him keep his balance and just keep going, run through some tackles before number 22, Casey Mahoney's eventually able to drag him down.
First down, the Central 37-yard line. I was Hirschblom, number 27.
Another drop pass. I think that even if he had caught that pass, though, it looked like Lacey had that one pretty much corralled. They had Bergstrom coming off the corner and Mahoney stepping up pretty tight.
Oh, so that's a wide receiver quick screen where you run the one receiver outside, the outside receiver straight down the field. Quick hits to the inside receiver, then try to run your lineman downfield to block for him.
2nd and 10, McCall around the corner. McCall, another first down. Brian McCall, the top scorer all year for Central Regional. He runs a nice run around the left end.
Right now, Central's having success running the football because they've been passing and Lacey's sitting in a pass defense look.
Fluta's injured for Lacey Township. on the 50-yard line, right in front of the central bench. Here's a replay, guys.
See it again. It's a counter tray kind of play. You can see number 58 and number 70, Jason Montero, leading that play.
But you see what's on that play. You saw Casey Mahoney all the way on the other side of the field. Counter trade, that's usually a play where your backside backer really has to shine, really try to make a good play on that. And like you said, they're off on the other side when the trips to the side playing passing game.
Keith, what have you noticed about Central that's different than when you play? When you have a new coaching staff, you play
no
defense.
Dillards. That's what I've noticed.
Dillards?
The first thing I noticed was that there were no Dillards. Every year I've seen them play.
They finally ran out last year.
There's always been a Dillard around.
And they've always been outstanding athletes also. So again, their speed gave you some trouble when you played Central.
Oh, definitely. You always had to account for where the Dillards were.
Right.
Keith, of all the honors you've had at Princeton, you made all Ivy League. You've made Ivy League Player of the Year. Your honors in high school. You were All-State First Team. You're Channel 8 Player of the Year twice in a row. Which one's meant the most to you of all the honors in your career?
I think being elected captain was a really big honor because it's something that your peers, my peers elected, the guys on the team elected me as a captain.
You talk about here or at Princeton
both,
or both?
At Princeton especially, because it's something the coaches didn't appoint. The guys elected me, and a lot of times what your teammates think of you is more important than what outsiders think of you.
All right, here's the first down play in Lacey territory now by Central Regional. Pozo looking to throw, runs up, he's going to keep it. And he tries to get to the far side. Chris Bergstrom was chasing him. And he gets down to about the 39-yard line, short of a first down.
Central is definitely taking advantage of the fact that Lacey's in the past that they're running the ball and now a quarterback draw. That was a nice play and he made a nice move.
Once again, we talked about that quarterback draw. What they try to do is get that drop back to the linebackers, get their quick drop out of there. Then their linemen move upfield, turn the defensive lineman out, and he's got some good yards.
8 minutes to go in the football game. Brian McCall again looking for a first down. He's got it. He got to the 35. He should have the first.
Again, the one thing that Lacey doesn't want to do is get too lax in their run defense because that's been the strong part of their game all day. And, of course, for 7.5 quarters now, their run defense has been the stellar part of their defense. And right now, because they're in a pass mode, Central's able to run for some yards.
Central trailing by 14. They got to get a touchdown in this drive. Pozo under pressure gets it off, incomplete. Flag after the play. Maturo, the intended, I should say Hirschblad, the intended receiver. Pozo was pressured as he threw.
By Frazee, number 78. Once again, that's that wide receiver screen that they tried to run the first time. He came back to the ball. It's almost the thing that Notre Dame used to run when they had Rocket Ishmael.
Let's see what the penalty is. They're talking to Lacey. He's going to go against Central, Tony. They decline it? What happened? He declined it, apparently.
Maybe they called no flag.
All right, maybe it was an inadvertent flag.
Right. Because if not, there would have been some movement. It's 2nd down and 10.
All right. Pozo makes him a call.
Being chased down.
And he's nailed for a big loss.
Number 60, Craig Housworth came in, but once again the play is made by number 40, Chris Bergstrom, who forced him to pull up. They tried to run the waggle, but Chris Bergstrom took an outside charge, forced 12 Pozo to pull up, and from the backside, Housworth made the tackle.
The coaching staff is really high on Bergstrom.
Here you can see it right here. Watch Chris Bergstrom take the angle to force him, and then from the backside, number 60, Housworth was able to make the tackle.
I was going to say that before the play, Central had to continue to make first downs, but someone from Lacey had to come up with a big play to stop this drive.
10-yard loss on the play. 3rd and 20. Back at the 46-yard line. Pozo going long. And incomplete. Maturo and Hirschblad. But look like he's going to Maturo down the far sideline.
They ran a combination route with those two receivers on that side where they posted one guy and they tried to sneak Maturo down the sideline, he was open. Again, with that wind, it's tough. He got the ball up high, about 50 yards, and the wind just kind of blew it over his hand.
Well, Central's going to punt the ball, Tony. Let's see, the clock shows 6:31 to go.
No, they're not going to punt. They're going to go for it. Jason Pozo's still in the game.
I tried to get Marla Panides in there, and they felt it was too late, and they sent him back. Here we go. Wide receivers to the left, three of them. Split end to the near side. Pozo looking to the far side. Complete. First down. Central gets the first. Hirschman.
Excellent catch by Brian Hirschman, number 27. Grabbed the ball with his hands and pulled it in for about a 25-yard completion. Here it is. You can see it right here. Watch number 12 step up, and then watch the fine catch by number 27, Brian Hirschman. It's about a 25-yard completion.
And it starts with the pass protection.
Central on the move. McCall squirts loose, and McCall picks up some yardage. Got 6 yards. Looked like all of a sudden everything came to a stop, Keith, and he popped right out of there.
It was unbelievable. I thought he was down. Next thing you know, he popped right out of that hole.
Brian McCall was their leading rusher last week. He gained about 60 yards on the ground. This week, I think he's had about 60 yards in the fourth quarter.
Got 6 on that play. 2nd and 4 for Central. They're inside the 15-yard line. Trying to get on a board here in the final quarter. Pozo gets time. Touchdown, Central. The sophomore, Brian Hirschman, on the reception. 15-yard scoring play. And Keith, the Eagles weren't to be denied. They gave him plenty of time to throw on that one.
Yeah. I think this game's definitely not over now with 5:40 left. And only up by a touchdown. Lacey's going to have to dig deep and put another drive together.
14-6. The extra point will be attempted by Tommy Loudon. Jason Pozo will be the holder. Paul Dasty, defensive tackle, will be the snap man. And it's good by Loudon, and it's 14-7. Lacey.
Okay, that breaks the skein of 7 quarters with no touchdowns by this Lacey defense. And see the touchdown. Watch the poise by Jason Pozo. He puts the ball on the line. The key to that is that's not bad coverage. That's just a good throw. There's no time for the defensive back to react.
Keith, I don't know if you're from Lacey, but tell you about Pozo. He's also the high scorer in basketball. He's a shortstop and pitcher in baseball. So he's a 3-sport athlete. And they moved him to defensive back this year when somebody got hurt. So he does a little bit of everything.
But he definitely had a nice throw on that play because, like you said, the coverage was there.